There are tears born from pain that dissipate in silence. But there is a weeping that has traversed centuries, the tears of Jesus over Jerusalem. It wasn't just about a lost city, but about all humanity that insists on not perceiving what gives it meaning. It was the lament of one who saw the beauty we could have been, and the emptiness we choose to become. This is the weeping of wounded love, but not surrendering love. It is the weeping that reveals God's heart before human deafness. And perhaps, if we listened carefully, we would perceive that this weeping still echoes within us, in the choices we make, in the time we waste, in the lives we could be living. We live in a time where everything must be fast, productive, and visible. There is no space for tears, only for posts. People no longer pause to feel. They react, publish, comment. We transform suffering into content and vulnerability into performance. But there is something profoundly tragic in this. We have lost the language of tears. And those who don't know how to weep no longer know how to transform. Jesus wept before the city that rejected him. But his lament wasn't of despair. It was of compassion. He wept because he saw wasted potential, refused love, truth replaced by distractions. The same happens with us. It's not technology that steals our soul. It's how we use it to fill the silence we should inhabit. We weep over weak Wi-Fi while having weak signals of compassion. We are surrounded by information, but lack meaning. We know the price of everything, but the value of almost nothing. We have time for what is urgent, but not for what is eternal. And while we rush to conquer what we think is missing, what truly matters slips through our fingers like sand in distracted hands. Christ's weeping over Jerusalem was the lament of almost. The city almost understood, calms, believed, almost was saved. And this almost is the echo that still resonates in our generation. How many times have we almost changed our lives, almost forgave, almost apologized? How many times have we felt grace's touch, but postponed the decision out of fear or pride? It is in this postponement that time becomes our enemy. Not because time destroys, but because it reveals. Time shows what we truly value. Jesus wasn't weeping for what we were, but for what we could have been. He saw the future we rejected. And this is the same lament that repeats when someone chooses the easier path instead of the true one. Some think divine love is only consolation, but it is also confrontation. It is the love that weeps because it knows we were made to fly and we choose to crawl. That we could have built bridges, but we erected walls. Weeping is the confession of the unspeakable. It is the point where the soul recognizes its limits and simultaneously its origin. When Jesus wept, it wasn't just human empathy. It was the divine manifestation of sensitivity. The entire universe wept through him, a God who doesn't observe from afar, but participates in our pain. But Christ's weeping isn't an invitation to permanent sadness. It is a call to lucidity. To weep is to perceive that something must change, and to decide not to return to being the same. Perhaps the true miracle isn't the falling tear, but the transformation it announces. There are tears that cleanse us from within, and there are weepings that wash not only the eyes, but the soul. The problem is we learn to hide these tears. We learn that weeping is weakness. But if even God wept, what makes us think strength lies in dryness? Tears are the secret language of rebirth. 3. The city within us, Jerusalem, isn't just a place on the map. It is a metaphor of the human soul, complex, divided, at war with itself. Each of us has our inner Jerusalem, the parts that close off, that resist transformation, that refuse love for fear of losing control. Jesus weeps over these internal walls. He weeps for every time we trade meaning for distraction, purpose for status, communion for visibility. He sees the temple we could rebuild within ourselves, and the silence of the ruins we choose to inhabit. Perhaps true repentance begins when we recognize that divine weeping isn't condemnation, but invitation. An invitation to tear down the walls that separate us from ourselves. Time is a mystery that God lends us, but it doesn't wait. The same time that heals also consumes. It teaches also demands. Those who waste time don't do so from lack of schedule, but from lack of consciousness. They lose themselves in distractions because they fear silence. They flee depth because it demands change. Christ's weeping is the sound of spiritual time running out. It's as if he said, There is still light, but the day is ending. Return now. How many opportunities have we let pass believing there would always be a second chance? Time isn't cruel, it is clear. Its clarity is the mirror where we see what truly matters. Starting to use time correctly isn't about doing more, but about living with purpose. It is choosing the essential and abandoning the superfluous. It is understanding that every decision is a seed in tomorrow's soil, and that what we plant in haste, we harvest with regret. When we weep with understanding, something sacred happens. Soul reorganizes itself, masks fall, and what seemed like an end becomes a beginning. Weeping returns us to the truth of who we are. Fragile, yes, but also capable of starting anew. It is at this point that lament ceases to be pain and becomes revelation. Jesus' tears weren't just an emotional reaction, they were a pedagogical act. They teach us that true love feels, suffers, and persists. That it's possible to look at chaos and still believe in beauty. Humanity was made for this, to feel deeply, love, courageously, live wholly. But we have unlearned. That's why the world becomes increasingly cold, because we traded sensitivity for efficiency. Weeping is the soul's last refuge in a world that wants us to be machines. And perhaps, when we return to weeping out of compassion, the divine will smile within us again. There is no transformation without vulnerability. Those who try to change without allowing themselves to feel only change appearances, but those who allow themselves to weep rebuild from within. Tears of repentance are seeds of wisdom. Those of compassion, seeds of empathy, and those of hope, seeds of faith. When the heart opens to what hurts, it also opens to what heals. God doesn't reject the broken heart, He inhabits it. Therefore, every tear that falls before Him is raw material for a miracle. Perhaps what our generation lacks isn't more faith, but more sensitivity. We weep for what we lost, but forget to weep for what we cease to be. And it is in this forgetfulness that emptiness grows. If Jesus returned today, perhaps He would weep again. Not for Jerusalem, but for a world that forgot how to feel. He would weep seeing children growing up afraid of silence, adults chasing approval, tired hearts pretending happiness. But He would also smile, because there are still those who hear the echo of His lament and want to be different. There are still those who weep not from despair, but from love, who understand that divine weeping is an invitation, not condemnation. These quiet people, who love without an audience, who forgive without applause, who help without publishing, are the response to God's weeping. They are the tears transformed into action, the eyes that now see with tenderness, the hearts that decided to be light amid haste. Perhaps the first step to changing the world is relearning to weep, but not any weeping, the weeping that awakens, that cleanses, that reveals. The weeping that brings us closer to what is essential. Weeping isn't giving up, it is making space. It is recognizing that we don't control everything, and that this is good. It is allowing God to translate what words cannot say. Divine weeping is the reminder that there is still hope. Because if He still weeps, it's because He still believes. And if we believe in Him, we must learn to weep too, not from sadness, but from love. There is a silence that only comes after weeping, and it is in this silence that transformation happens. It is the moment when we stop fighting the inevitable and begin cooperating with the eternal. God doesn't want us to only feel sorry for ourselves. He wants us to awaken, to transform lament into purpose, pain into wisdom, loss into surrender. The weeping that Jesus shed over Jerusalem still echoes today, not as memory, but as invitation. Invitation to rebuild within ourselves the city that time destroyed. Perhaps heaven never asked for perfection, only movement. And every tear that falls from the divine is a call to take one step closer to the light. Because in the end, we can still be the response to God's tears. Thank you for reading this far. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel.